What up, y'all? It's your man D-Real, the Black Panther stalking the urban jungle and vibrating Adidas, bringing you another Be Real with D-Real. Hey, realists, I'm D-Real, and here we are with another fun video. Hero support. I want to talk a little bit to you today about hero support. Hero support can be literal, hero support can be moral, hero support can be equipment based, and hero support can be all three. Now, bearing that in mind, what I want to run down to you today is my top 5 hero support characters. Bear in mind, my top 5 hero support characters are characters who themselves are not quote unquote super, though they may have been depicted that way once or twice or in an alternate universe or something like that. They are essentially non-powered characters. Okay. And kicking off my at number 5 is none other than the director of S.H.I.E.L.D., Nick Fury. Nicholas Joseph Fury was created by the incomparable Stan Lee and Jack Kirby and made his debut in Sergeant Fury and his Howling Commandos #1 in May of 1963. He went on to become the spy James Bond-esque type character after the World War II comic. The World War II comic ran concurrently with his comic that came out later, Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. But he first started to look kind of spy-esque in Fantastic Four #21 in December of 1963, and then we finally got to see him in Strange Tales #135, which I believe was 1964, where he first became the director of S.H.I.E.L.D. and started his war against Hydra. The character went into overdrive in July of '68 when Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. debuted, and you got to see those funky psychedelic Jim Steranko covers and psychedelic little pages and panels. It was man. Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. was a good comic to read and do drugs to. I'm not endorsing drugs. I'm just saying. Strange thing happened in the 90s with Nick Fury. Well, not necessarily with Nick Fury, but with the Marvel Universe. They decided that they wanted to be able to depict some of their flagship characters getting disabled, retired, looked at in different lights, and even in some cases killed, quite often the latter. And this was Earth 1610, which was referred to as Ultimate Marvel or the Ultimate Marvel Universe. This Nick Fury was African American. And because of the look and the vibe of the Ultimate Marvel Nick Fury, when Nick Fury was finally depicted in the Marvel Cinematic Universe in Iron Man in 2008, they decided to get Samuel L. Jackson to play the role, since he was the person that Ultimate Nick Fury was patterned after. Look, I like Samuel L. Jackson, don't it? Number 4 on my top 5 hero support list is James Gordon. Jim Gordon, the stalwart friend and ally of Batman, created by Bill Finger and Bob Kane, and made his debut in Detective Comics #27 in May of 1939, which makes Jim Gordon the first ever supporting character in the Batman mythos. There have been different versions, different iterations of James Gordon, but the most popular one is the one that's depicted in the Batman Year One series, where he comes to town as a hardened cop, ex-Marine, and joins the Gotham police force. Now, you talk about some dirty police forces. The LAPD, the New York PD ain't got nothing on the Gotham City PD. I think Gotham City PD makes them cats look like security guards. But anyway, he goes a long way into dealing with the corruption. At first, he's fighting it by himself, but at the same time that he's trying to fight this corruption, Bruce Wayne is coming into his own, and he's acquiring the skills and the equipment that he needs to become Batman. And eventually the two end up crossing paths, first as enemies, but then Gordon realizes that Batman isn't a criminal and reluctantly accepts his help. And it's Gordon's idea that he be given a signal to summon him. And then later on in the 2000 teens, Batman gives Jim a special cell phone to contact him on, a mobile phone that only he can contact him on. He has been depicted most notably by Gary Oldman, J.K. Simmons most recently, and cinematically, Jeffrey Wright will be portraying him in the upcoming Batman movie. Jim Gordon, coincidentally, is also the father of one Barbara Gordon, aka Batgirl, aka the information broker of the DC Universe, Oracle. Number 3, coming in at number 3 is May Parker. May Parker was created by Stan Lee and Steve Ditko and made her debut in the classic Amazing Fantasy number 15 in August of 1962. May Riley Parker is the aunt, technically, if you want to be technical, she's the aunt-in-law of Peter Parker, aka Spider-Man. And she supports because she is a moral compass, and she often gives him advice that he doesn't know that he needs at first until he has an epiphany during a battle or while web swinging through the city. He remembers his aunt's advice, and she's always been that sage, that wisdom that always keeps him where he needs to be, because let's face it, Peter Parker has the crappiest luck of any character in history. I can't think of anybody, with the possible exception of Job, who has crappier luck than Peter Parker. May Parker is, in her initial appearances, was depicted as an elderly lady who was very fragile and just seemed to faint or crumble whenever the wind blew. But as time went on, May started to look a little younger, a little more vibrant. She was written younger. I think in the late 90s, when the Ultimate Universe popped up and we had Ultimate Spider-Man, Ultimate Aunt May looked to be like she was maybe in like her mid 50s, still, she could still move around a little bit, you know what I mean? Even at one time in the comics, in the mainstream Marvel universe, had a relationship with Spider-Man's arch enemy, Dr. Octopus. Now, Aunt May, goodness gracious, how many people have played Aunt May? Let's see. In cinematic and television, let's see. Rosemary Harris played Aunt May in the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man series. Sally Field played Aunt May in the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man series. Marissa Tomei played a much, much younger Aunt May in the MCU. And Aunt May was voiced by Lily Tomlin. Surprise, surprise! In Into the Spider-Verse. Woo! Okay. That's a lot on Aunt May. I did not know that. There's some more stuff about Aunt May. Aunt May is in recent times, she's done some really weird and freaky stuff, man. And you know what? I like Aunt May, so I'm not gonna put her business out there. If you really want to know what's popping with Aunt May, y'all need to pick up some recent Spider-Man comics and see what she's doing, who she's having relationships with. I've said too much already. Let me sip my chocolate. Number two on hero support. I know what you're thinking, man. If he don't show up soon, we're gonna cry bloody murder. Yeah. Number two is Alfred Pennyworth. Surprise! No, not a surprise. If we're talking about somebody supporting somebody, nobody provides more support than Alfred Thaddeus Crane Pennyworth. Created by Don Cameron and Bob Kane, he made his debut in Batman number 16 in May of 1943. Alfred, the everything to Batman. He is his sarcastic, cynical, moral compass that keeps him from slipping off the deep end when he has those deep brooding Batman-y moments. Batman, being the intelligent fella he is, has to kick it with somebody who's at least close to being intelligent or close to understanding what he's dealing with when he's going all psycho and puts on the ears and wiles out. Um, Alfred's been the butler of the Wayne family since Bruce Wayne was a young kid. So when Bruce Wayne's parents were murdered, Bruce Wayne actually became the legitimate ward of Alfred. And Alfred raised him until he decided he was going to go on his quest to learn a million martial arts and skills and stuff and come back and break arms and legs of criminals and scare the crap out of them. Alfred himself is no slouch in action department. He was once in the Royal Air Force. He was a combat medic. He was British Secret Forces. Now, in order to maintain a lot of the stuff that Batman has, Alfred also has to have a background in computer programming, and he has to be an electrical, chemical, and mechanical engineer, as well as a bio and nanotechnologist, or at least have some kind of understanding of all the above. Now, for somebody who's been depicted a lot in cinema and on in TV and all of this kind of thing, man, where does the list begin for Alfred's? Let's see. There was Alan Napier in the 60s with the 66 Batman series. There was Michael Gough in the 80s with the Michael Keaton Batman series. Then there was Michael Caine in the Batman Begins series. Then Jeremy Irons in the DCEU. Sean Pertwee on television in Gotham. And Jack Bannon currently portrays a young Alfred Pennyworth in the television series eponymously titled Pennyworth. And interesting side note, Alfred is the only person in the Batman family who Batman approves of using firearms. His favorite is a shotgun. Me too, Alfred. Now, this brings us to number one. Number one, why wouldn't Alfred be number one under hero support? Who's supporting a hero tougher than Alfred? Number one, Lois Lane. Oh, wow. We forgot all about Lois Lane. That's right. Lois Lane, girlfriend and eventually wife of Superman, perhaps the most powerful superhero, the first superhero. Lois Lane made her debut in Action Comics number 1, the comic that kicked off the superhero genre in June of 1938 by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster, the legendary artists who brought us Superman. What can we say about Lois Lane? Um, there are a lot of words that can be used to depict Lois Lane. I know a lot of times. I know when we were kids and we used to watch the old Superman series. Um, we used to look at Lois Lane as nosy. We thought she was nosy, but then after I'd say maybe like post crisis 86, 87, when they retooled Lois Lane and made her more um 90s, 80s, 90s era friendly, where she wasn't always this damsel in distress, falling off stuff, being tied up, that kind of thing. Dauntless, um, smart, independent, strong-willed, resourceful. You know, all of these adjectives describe Lois Lane. She is endlessly in pursuit of first discovering Superman's true identity, then falling in love with him and getting him to fall for her. But during all of this time, whenever he needs support, whenever he needs a shoulder to lean on, Lois is there for him. A perfect example of why that's important is in most of the iterations where there is no Lois Lane or Lois Lane dies tragically, Superman goes nuts. He goes to the left, all the way to the left. Like, for instance, in the Injustice series, he just decides, I'm taking over and I'm getting ready to crush everything and everybody because my baby's dead. Other times they go all the way in the to the right, whereas during at the end of the New 52 era, and you had the convergence there, we see a pregnant, married Lois Lane who gives birth to their son, Jonathan Samuel Kent, who is currently the current Superboy in DC continuity right now. As far as depictions of Lois Lane in popular cinema, TV, and the alike, let's see. The most popular initial depictions of Lois Lane were Noel Neal and Phyllis Coates in the 1940s and 50s in the old Superman movies and the Superman television series. There was Margot Kidder, who epically played Lois Lane in the Superman movie of the 70s, and then later the not so great ones in the 80s. Let's see, Terry Hatcher depicted Lois Lane in the 80s and 90s in The Adventures of Lois and Clark. Erica Durance depicted her in the 2000s, as well as Kate Bosworth, Smallville and Superman Returns, respectively. And then there was Amy Adams, who currently depicts Lois Lane in the DCEU, and Elizabeth Tulloch, who depicts Lois Lane in the Arrowverse and currently on Superman and Lois, the newest series on the CW. Goodness gracious, there has been Lois Lane depicted in every decade since the 40s in cinema and television. That, more than anything else, is why, well, not anything else, but mainly why Lois Lane is the most recognizable hero support in all of comics. What do you think? Is that list on point? Is it a good list? Is it a blah list? Am I just whistling Dixie? Talk to me in the comments. And as always, this has been Be Real with D Real. I'll be back with another interesting video. And until then, y'all be good and be good to each other.